Hey there, everyone. It's Cynthia with Pacific Wine and Spirits for your home tasting edition number 3. Tonight we are going to be tasting wines from Joseph Drouhin, Burgundy, and Joseph Drouhin, Oregon. Very excited to chat with you guys about that this evening. Once again, I work for a company called Pacific Wine and Spirits. We are proudly Alberta, family owned and operated, and have been for almost 50 years. So that's quite some time. I've been with the company for almost 8 years, and I specialize in boutique retail sales. So it's my job to showcase my wines on a boutique level, and then come out and educate on those wines. So I absolutely love my job, and I love being able to share information with you and share my passion and knowledge about wine. So Joseph Drouhin Winery, they've been around since 1880, family owned and operated as well. Fifth generation Drouhin family. Right now, the three sons and the daughter. So we got Frederick, Laurent, Philippe, and Veronique are all running the winery, and they're an amazing family that I've learned so much from. So I'm very proud to be telling you about their wines this evening. So Burgundy, France. Burgundy region of France is home to arguably some of the most famous, notable, age-worthy wines in the entire world. They It's absolutely incredible, the history of this wine growing region. So when we're talking Burgundy, for all intents purposes, I know there's different laws and regulations, but if you see a Burgundy red on the shelf, it's most likely going to be Pinot Noir, and if you see a white from Burgundy, it's most likely going to be Chardonnay. That's what they specialize in. Pinot Noir is a very tricky grape to grow. It's known as the heartbreak grape. It's susceptible to rot in the winery, in the vineyard. It's also, it mutates in the vineyard. The yields are usually pretty low. It's a very finicky grape, so and hard to grow. Although the cool continental climate of Burgundy is a perfect growing region for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. What's interesting is that back in the 80s, the Drouhin family set their sights overseas. Oregon had entered some wines in 1979, a wine competition in France, and one of their wines came top 10. So this caught the eye of Robert Drouhin, who was going, what, Oregon? I never would have thought that. So he went overseas and actually started looking at land in Napa from his friend Robert Mondavi. And then he ended up in Oregon and found a beautiful piece of land that was about 230 acres. And in 1987, he purchased that land, and so they have some of the first plantings in Oregon, and they have a beautiful plot of land. So what's going to be interesting tonight is first we're going to taste a Chardonnay from a very famous region in Burgundy, Pouilly-Fuissé. And then we're going to do a neat little Pinot Noir comparison tasting. We're going to compare a 2015 Pinot Noir from Côte de Beaune, Burgundy, and we're going to compare it with a 2015 from Willamette Valley, Eola Hills Pinot Noir. So that's pretty cool. Once again, the history of Burgundy and the Drouhin family is absolutely fascinating to me. As I mentioned before, some of the most notable and age-worthy wines are from Burgundy. A Grand Cru from Burgundy could age, it's timeless. It could age over 40 years. It's absolutely incredible. I'm not sure when everybody's going to be watching this. Today is Remembrance Day, though, and I found it interesting that one of my favorite books. It's called Wine and War. If you're looking for a good little read, it's a fabulous, fascinating book on the history of World War II, the Nazis, and the vineyards, the vintners. And the Drouhin family plays a predominant role in this book. I did want to read just a little passage that I found very, very interesting. So Maurice Drouhin, which would be Veronique's great grandfather, was in World War One. And so he was around for the beginning of World War II. And in 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, Maurice knew what was coming. He knew he had fought in World War I. He knew that France's prized possession would be pillaged, which is wine. And so what I'm about to read is Robert. So Robert is the kid's dad. It's his recollection from when he was 8 years old. Maurice's cellar had been made up of a labyrinth of caves under Beaune, some of which had been carved in the 13th century. All the odd twists and turns made them perfect for hiding large quantities of wine. In one section, he had decided to build a wall and hide his most valuable bottles of wine behind it. Not a word about this to anyone, he told his family. Building the wall was a family project, and one that Maurice's son, Robert, who was 8 years old at the time, found it terribly exciting. While Papa laid the bricks, my mother, my sister, and I ran around the cellar collecting spiders to put in front of the wall. The spiders would then spin webs and make the wall look older. Because of Maurice's experience in World War I, he knew that the Nazis were going to pillage and steal their wines. And so he wanted to secure the legacy of the Drouhin family, which he did. And so, you know, the history of it is just, I'm sure it hits quite close to home for the Drouhin family. So I just find it really fascinating. What else? Let's see. We can start with the first wine if you would like. The first wine here is a beautiful Chardonnay from Pouilly-Fuissé region of Burgundy. So Pouilly-Fuissé is a region that's almost at the southern tip of the Burgundy region down there. It's the flagship of Mâconnais. Mâconnais is the larger region. Typically, southern Burgundy Chardonnays possess delicate fruit, floral aromas, but they're wrapped around this solid minerality. And for the most part, these Chardonnays can handle a little bit of time in oak. They're definitely full-bodied, ripe Chardonnays. 2018 was a really great year. It was a warmer year. It was a really healthy crop, so there was a high yield and high quality as well. What I find with this Chardonnay is that, yeah, definitely full-bodied. It has aromas of almonds, peaches, and melons, but that nutty flavor definitely is absolutely amazing. It's aged partially in stainless steel, and then partially in French barrels. They use exclusively French oak barrels, but no new oak. So it's not a big oaky wine, but this is definitely a nice full-bodied Chardonnay. So if you're a white drinker on On a cold day, this would be a great wine to have. It would also pair a really good regional dish in the area would be probably be escargot. It would be a beautiful pairing for escargot. I would also like to note that I pulled this wine out of the fridge about 20 minutes ago. It should drink it at about 11 degrees or so. I like mine a little bit warmer. As North American society, we actually drink our whites too cold and our reds too warm. So yeah, people go, well, room temperature. Well, yes, but room temperature was meant back in the day in the cellars, and think of how cold they were. So room temperature now is definitely a lot warmer. So for this beautiful Chardonnay, I would, like I said, I would pull it out of my fridge about 20 minutes before serving and then enjoy a beautiful glass. That's really good. The Chardonnay is $40.50. Put that right there beside me. It's not going very far. All right. Next, super exciting. I was really excited to do this comparison tasting. Between Burgundy and Oregon. It's interesting. The site in Oregon was selected for its remarkable similarity with Burgundy. The climate, very, very similar. They both have kind of a continental, cooler climate, which bodes very well for Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir likes the cold weather, that's for sure. The latitude actually is very similar. So if you take a globe, you have about 47 degrees latitude in Burgundy, and you go to the other side of the pond and it's about 45, 46 degrees. So you're very similar there. The soils are a little bit different, and we're looking at a little more limestone soil for Burgundy and a little more volcanic for the Rose Rock Domaine Drouhin Vineyard. As mentioned before, though, it's the wines from Burgundy. They seem to a classic Burgundian Pinot exudes flavors of red fruit, kind of strawberries, bright cherries. It evolves, and then over time, it evolves into kind of a gamey, savory notes. The tannins are typically very, very soft and well integrated, and it has about a medium acidity, maybe medium to high acidity. So when we're talking about tannins, it's essentially when you have a wine that has really big tannins and what we call is chewy, and it's very strong, whereas Pinot Noirs definitely they're not hugely tannic wines, but they do have great acidity to stand up to food. One of my favorite pairings is a Pinot Noir with a mushroom risotto, or also you could pair it with a regional Burgundian dish of coq au vin, or actually just coq au vin is pretty darn good, or there's lots of great options out there. You can tell I'm getting hungry. I got food on the brain. So this is the Côte de Beaune. It's a hill where the vines are planted. It's a hill that's overlooking the city of Beaune. Now, it's not to be confused with Côte de Beaune Village. When you see that name Village, according to the labeling, the very complicated French labeling system, It means you can blend in grapes from surrounding towns. But this doesn't have village on it. This is just from that one certain vineyard. Just to touch on the labeling for a minute, because it is quite complicated. To give you an idea of how complicated it is, Burgundy itself has one of the most complicated labeling AOCs in the world. Okay, to give you an idea, Oregon has essentially 6 wine producing regions or sub-regions. 6. So 6 different labels. Burgundy, I believe it's 635, if I'm not mistaken. So each town can label its wine, but there's exceptions to every single rule. And then there's also Premier Crus and Grand Crus, which are absolutely beautiful if you ever get a chance to try one of those. So the grapes from the Côte des Beaunes come from 2.5 acres. How small is that? Super small. Some of the grapes also do come from the nearby illustrious Clos des Mouches vineyard. Clos des Mouches is a wine that Drouhin produces that is it's absolutely incredible. If you ever have a chance to try a bottle, I really urge you to. So some of the younger vines from the Clos des Mouches, some of the grapes from the younger vines from the Clos des Mouches vineyard go into this wine. So that's pretty cool, because those wines are they're at the upper echelons of amazingness. So all these grapes are hand-picked. The vines are all hand-trimmed. Everything is hand-harvested. One thing I don't believe that I mentioned, actually, is Joseph Drouhin is at the forefront of biodynamic. So there's organic, in which you don't use any herbicides, pesticides, anything like that at all. But biodynamic is a step above that. You're using old school techniques. You're cultivating the grapes based on the moon and the stars and the tides. But if it worked for the monks, why shouldn't it work for us? It's absolutely an incredible philosophy, and it's one that the Drouhin family firmly believes in. It is very fascinating. So that is also something that is really cool about both their wineries are organic, and they follow biodynamic practices. This guy, the Côte des Beaunes, is aged in French oak for about 12 to 15 months. 10% new oak. So the Drouhin family is very elegant. You will hear words associated with the Drouhin family such as finesse, elegance, passion. These are wines, that's what they put into their wines. These wines are absolutely stunning, whether you're having one from Burgundy or one from Oregon. So it's been aged for about 12 to 15 months in 10% new oak. So these aren't very oaky. They're beautiful. They're elegant. I get notes of red currant and strawberries. Beautiful, long finish. I can still taste it in my mouth. The tannins are so finite. And it's bursting with flavor. The aging potential of the Côte de Beaune, um, well, it's about 8 to 10 years. I have a case in my cellar, and ooh, it's hard not to touch it. Um, but I do feel that wines from the Côte de Beaune region do benefit even from a little bit of time in your cellar. They'll just open up and they'll become more and more beautiful. This Côte de Beaune wine is $57.50 at Liquor Select. All right. Now let's taste the Rose Rock in comparison. So once again, this is Domaine Drouhin, Oregon. So Domaine Drouhin has been around since 1988, as I mentioned before. They have some of the first plantings in the area. Their tagline is French Soul, Oregon Soil. Veronique, the enologist of the family, heads up that vineyard. So she's in charge of that vineyard. She specializes in the viticulture of Pinot Noir. So she knows what she is doing. She makes beautiful wines and is an absolutely astounding woman. The Rose Rock Vineyard was purchased in 2013. So it's in the Eola Amity Hills area, which is within the Willamette Valley. It's not Willamette, as the locals would say. It's Willamette, damn it. These grapes have also been hand-picked, and everything has been done by hand. It sees 12 to 14 months French oak. And 20% new, so a little bit more new oak is put in there. But then it's matured in the bottle for another 6 to 18 months or so before release. And this vineyard is 35 acres. So in comparison, you got to think size-wise. I mean, the Joseph Drouhin family in Burgundy is one of the largest landowners at 195 acres. But in Oregon, they own almost 280 acres. So we have a little bit more land here on this continent. So that's quite interesting. So 35 acre plot and a 2.5 acre plot of land. Ooh, I find this one a little bit more spicy. Kind of more earthy for sure. Wow. Those are both really beautiful wines. If someone asked me that if I had to pick between the two, man, I think that would be pretty difficult. So I urge you to buy both and try both. Do a comparison. See which one you like better. I love them both. I find the Rose Rock is almost, even though it has a little more spice on the nose, it's almost a little more fruitier in the mouth. But the Drouhin is so elegant and its tannins are so finite. They're both two beautiful bottles of wine that would both stand for a little bit of aging, for sure. They would definitely benefit from that. The Rose Rock Pinot is $49.95. So there. That was our little Joseph Drouhin tasting. I want to thank you so much to Liquor Select for having me and letting me be able to educate and talk about my wines that I absolutely love. Oh, I know. So you can purchase any of these wines at Liquor Select pretty much from November 15th for about a month for 10% off. So once again, the Pouilly-Fuissé Chardonnay is $40.50. That's without the 10% off. And the Côte de Beaune is $57.50. And And the beautiful Rose Rock Pinot is $49.95. I'd like to thank you sincerely for taking the time and watching this home edition tasting video number 3. And I hope everybody is staying safe out there. And I can't wait to see everybody in person. So have an awesome winter. We'll see you later.